about that time to do what we do here, Conspiracy Worldwide, and laugh at our competition as we get our first guest out tonight. Should we do this, Menace?
I think it's about that time, bro. First guest of tonight.
Aye, man, let's do it. He's got a EP out at the moment. I'm right in saying it's an EP. It's not an album. I always get mixed up in every interview we do. I always call EPs albums and albums EP. I always get very mixed up. This is definitely an EP, though, right?
Definitely an EP, and it's, as of right now, it's exclusive to you and I because it doesn't drop until the 28th of April. So it's just you and I that have got it. We can brag about that.
Yeah, let's do that. When we finish the show, me and you, let's like go around block like fucking shouting. But no, seriously,
Exactly.
one of the things I will say is that last time he came on the show, we spoke about his poetry and the way that his fans just decipher his lyrics. I've never seen any UK artist, maybe other than Jest or somebody like that, somebody that his fans truly care about to the extent of rewriting his lyrics out and making sure they understand every word. This EP that we've got here is probably some of his most florid work. It really is a colourful album. So we're going to talk to him now. Let's get him on then. Edward Scissortongue.
Yo.
Yes, Edward, welcome back to Conspiracy Worldwide. How you doing?
Straight on the air. Without any introductions, I'm here.
That's it, man. We don't need to do all that. This is just straight ringing you. You're now live on air. Good to have you back with us and good to have you back on Wax as Mel with this EP because we're going to talk about that obviously tonight, but we've been graced and we've got it here. We've got some tracks to support and play after the interview. I was just saying to Menace there, last time you came on, we spoke about the depth of your artistry, the depth of your fans, the way they rewrite your lyrics. I think you've gone deeper than ever with this EP, man. This really is some very colourful work.
Well, that means a lot. Thank you ever so much for your colourful feedback.
Now, the original EP, I always ask this if people make EPs, it sounds to me as if this could have easily been an album. Am I mistaken there?
No, you're not mistaken at all. People have thrown that at me from all angles, and I don't know. Like, I feel as if from where I'm stood as an artist, an album is something that you sit down with a music maker / one producer and really build from top to tail. So the reason that I wanted this to be an EP, not an ET, the reason I wanted it to be an EP is because there's more than one musician involved, and like, you know, it's a patchwork pattern of music. So it's not an album, in my humble opinion. It's an EP because not that it's thrown together, but you know, there's musical textures that make it more a beautiful project which you've enjoyed with several musicians rather than just one. That's my take on what the difference between an album and an EP is, but you know, the traditionalists would argue otherwise.
Last time we spoke as well, I remember there was a lot of press coverage, and rightfully so, but you were getting noticed by a lot of mainstream outlets. That's continued a little bit, hasn't it? I saw you on, is it BBC Cambridge introducing, I think. You did a live set, videotaped the whole lot, wasn't it?
Yeah, we did that. I mean, I'm open to doing anything anywhere. We're getting love from a few different angles, and you know, for good reason. No, I'm happy to be just making music and getting positive feedback from whichever angle it is. You know, I'm a happy camper.
So how do you feel this EP has allowed you to grow and expand upon certain themes as a continuation from Better Luck Next Life? Has this creative space you made this project under been one of less weight, given its duration as an EP?
Well, I mean, the first thing to mention is that I planned on rolling it out quite quickly after the album. I planned on putting a second album together that kind of continued the themes of the first, Better Luck Next Life, and it's scary to me to think that Better Luck Next Life came out late 2012, and now we're talking again, kind of early to mid 2014. Like, time flies as a musician, because you know, if you're striving for something, there's no easy route to that. It takes time. A body of work came together, and it just so happened that sort of a half of what I was writing, or 3/4 of what I'd written after the record, followed a similar sort of trait as the debut album that you mentioned previously. It's allowed me to continue because, you know, that's just kind of what I do. These are the things as a musician that I kind of thrive tackling, and that doesn't mean that this is just what I do, because I'm busy trying to tread other paths. But I really enjoyed heightening and extending upon things that had been successful on Better Luck Next Life, and the Theremin EP is, yeah, as you said, it's a continuation of that.
Now, speaking of Better Luck Next Life, you dropped that Or should I say, it took you 3 years to make that project, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
sir.
Now, how many tracks did you initially record for this project, and was the selection process a tough one because of your past of making full-length projects?
Yeah, I mean, there's like an album's worth of material that I laid down,
Nice.
and I spent a long time kind of adding and whittling and deleting and removing and adding again and recording a new song and trying to figure out the best track list for this. And it just unfolded that, yeah, there were a few tracks that I was contemplating adding to the track list. And, you know, as someone who, you know, just wants to put something out that is as concise and accurate as possible, I sort of threw 4 or 5 tracks onto the bench to ride the pine, and the EP just ended up being a 7-track thing. It's important from my viewpoint to put something out that is concise and doesn't kind of long-wind anything, and in the same respect isn't too short and will make people that want to listen to the project think that it's just a little bit too sharp. I think what I'd put together is as good as it was with what I'd written in that space of time creatively. So yeah, I'm really happy with what it's become, and it took a long time figuring it out, but yeah, I'm really happy.
Excellent. Now, this obviously is an EP that follows the same formula that the album had, which of course was to be produced in its entirety by Lamplighter. Now, what was the process working with Lamplighter this time versus making Better Luck Next Life? Was it less of a continuation from last time?
Well, I think before we go on,
the process,
there are several producers on this EP, which means Lamplighter is the most involved producer, but there are some other producers that deserve as many mentions as Lamplighter because they are involved in the project. But I suppose the best way to talk about the fact that I'm working now on the next album with Lamplighter, who is completely producing the whole thing. So yeah, in terms of the Theremin EP, we've got a few producers involved in that. I understand kind of where you're coming from as a journalist, because there is a concise sound that runs through it. But what I've done with this project is recruited a number of brilliant producers that all have the same sort of forward-thinking, really, really beautifully creative producing skills to kind of intertwine together on a project. You know, if you're sent 100 things from 5 producers, you can usually whittle down a nice musical path through those tracks to get a nice concise project, and that's what I tried to do. So firstly, big up Lamplighter because he's very involved in the project, but also big up Dyke, big up Some Guy, big up Eon Ra, big up Miles Courtney, and big up Conscious, because they're all involved as well, and they've made it as beautiful as I have, I think.
Is there a track on this project you'd say you're most proud of?
I don't know, I'm proud of all of them, but I think the feedback from the people that I've sent it out to get, you know, like a critical response from, the biggest feedback and the kind of strongest response that I've got is for the track called Teeth, which no one's heard yet. It's very secretive, and I'm trying to keep it close to my chest until the release date. We've got big plans for a video, but what I do know is, having sent it out to people that I care about, and more importantly, I care about what they think about the music that I make, Teeth seems to be the one that has got people's ears pricking up and, you know, felt that they should email me back and tell me that that's the track that bumps the hardest.
Yeah. You know, speaking of tracks that bumped the hardest, for the longest time now, one of the most anticipated projects in UK, not just UK, should I say, just hip-hop in general, is this upcoming project with yourself and Jam Baxter and Ghost Town, Laminated Cakes. What can you tell us about the status of that?
Well, firstly, I just literally about 15 minutes ago left Jam Baxter in a bar in Shoreditch. I think it's probably important to mention that this might not be the last, but it's probably the first interview that you've ever had on your radio show where the guy in which you're speaking to, me, is on a push bike. And I think that's probably worth mentioning because
it is worth mentioning. Thank you, we appreciate that. We're making a note of that now.
The coolest thing I've heard in a while. Me and Jam Baxter have literally spent a year jangling with what is soon to be a 9-track release called Laminated Cakes with the maestro that we all know by the name of Ghost Town on the buttons. You know, he's a talented music maker and an inspiring guy in life in general. And we had the last meeting about the overall kind of final tweakings here for what should we put at the end of that song, and should we add the second hook on that verse for the project literally at the end of at the start of this week, sorry. So it was only 3-4 days ago when I was in Ghost Town's house and we were just talking about the finer points. And I'm very, very, very excited about the project. It sounds unlike anything you've probably ever heard before. It sounds like anything I've heard before, and I've heard a whole load of music. So truth is, it's going to be a game-breaking thing, in my humble opinion. And, you know, if you're working with two musicians as forward-thinking as Ghost Town and Jan Baxter, it would be silly to think that I was chatting press. So, yeah, it's going to be a big project, and it's coming out, I'd say, early summer on High Focus.
Dope. What about the next solo album itself, produced by Lamplighter? What sort of features are you playing with at the moment?
Features are nondescript currently. I'm a big fan of, you know, really pouring my heart and soul out until gaps develop, which kind of slowly but fit the mold of artists that I fancy working with. Currently, we're on kind of 9-10 track thing, and I'm very keen on this project to see Lamplighter, like, you know, really spread his wings, and he's doing that. Like some of the music that he and I are working on currently is as good as he's ever sent me in the sort of, I don't know, nearly 8, 9, 10 years or something that we've been sending music from one to another. But yeah, it's a love record, if that's the best way to describe it. Every single track is basically defined by that classic human emotion that defines 99% of every song that's ever written across the planet, which is, you know, I love you, baby girl, don't leave me. or why did you leave me? Or come back. Yeah.
So
I think just the final point is I've always wanted to write a love album. They're the albums that have always resonated most passionately in my life. Those albums that are literally either A, heartbroken, or B, riddled with happiness and joy because one person is in love with another person. And this is currently my best attempt at that.
That's interesting, man. So would you say, that being said, would you say that this is Edward Scissorturn's version of 808s and Heartbreaks? And will he be singing on this album?
Well, I've laid down 3, maybe 4 tracks which have involved what you could describe as Edward Scissorton singing into a microphone, and with mixed results, but the fact that I'm trying it suggests that that's something that I quite like to do.
We had a few listeners hit us up with some questions. We're going to get to those in a minute. One of the things we're saying were this really, and it was about other artists that you could collaborate with, I'd like to see you work with, but you never have done. There's quite a few artists out here that could happen. I don't know if you've got any plans. I mean, Jest has been obviously at the top there. They said a Jest, Edward Scissorton, another collaboration would be fantastic. But also other artists like Ty. I mean, Ty is a man of world music, and he's a man that really is so eclectic with the sound that he creates that a Ty and Edward Scissorton collaboration. I mean, what about these sort of artist names? Have you ever considered this?
Well, you know, I think it would be silly not to say that Edward Scissorton myself is a huge fan of the two artists that you just mentioned. Like, Ty's record Awkward is up there with my favourite UK hip-hop albums that were ever dropped ever. And I could listen to that now, or I could listen to it when it was released, you know, and any year in between, and enjoy it in equal measure, because that record is a special, special release. And Jest is, you know, he's one of the premium kings. He's a flawless MC. From, you know, his seminal works to the music he's putting out now. Like, I was shown a video that he did only recently, which was again talking back to what we were mentioning about my record. It was a heartbroken song, and I was blown away by what he was doing. So those two artists are just, yeah, they're godfathers in my opinion. The two artists that spring to mind that I would very much love to collaborate with, I was chatting to one yesterday on Facebook, and I was chatting to one a couple of days before on Twitter, because, you know, social media is very important in this music game. Yesterday, Lee Scott from up north. Lee Scott is as interesting and as forward-thinking as a musician that, in my opinion, you will find in the scene ever. Lee Scott is one. And I knew that for years, but I did a show with him recently in Falmouth, way down in Cornwall, and he blew my socks off, whether it was just in the car on the way there or when he was playing a live show. I was blown away by what he was doing, so shout out to Lee Scott. And the latest video that he just dropped, everyone needs to check that out. And the second one is Reggie Snow, guy from Dublin, who has opened up the game to a whole new spectrum of listeners, fans, whoever the fuck wants to listen. Reggie Snow's a bad man. And I'm talking to those two guys on and off. You know, everyone does their thing, and I'm sure we'll get together at some point. But them two, because I've made a whole album with Jan Baxter now, and I don't really want to work with her anymore.
No, it's boring now, isn't it? Move on. But what I want to ask you this is really, because you're known for, of all our guests from the UK, you really don't have a niche fan base. You have a very wide fan base. But what about the sort of traditional UK heads that maybe you've lost a little bit? Do you feel that at all? Do you ever feel like you sort of standard UK hip-hop boom-bap fans? You know, I'm being very cliched and pigeonhole here, but maybe there's a big collection of UK hip-hop fans that don't really, are not really into your music.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure they're there. And, you know, pigeonhole away, because those pigeonholes are real. You're not making them up. They exist. Yeah, it's true, but to say that would be to the detriment of my music making or would influence in any which way the music that I make would be laughable, because it just never will. I don't make music for anyone apart from myself. I don't think, I need to write a song to cater for them, or I need to slow down what I'm doing on this so that those guys will enjoy it, or I need to write a double time tune so that maybe some garage heads might enjoy my music. Like, it's a stone cold fact, and I'll stand by it until music is not a part of my life anymore. And the fact remains that I write songs for myself, and if anyone else would care to listen and enjoy what I do and support me in any which way, then amen to them and respect to them. But I'm not going to cater for anyone, because it's just it's a selfish thing. The process of making songs is selfish for me. I make songs for myself because that's my release. That's how I creatively bend and flux and make my brain happy. You know, that's how I exercise my brain. And I'm not going to let like small things like, oh, those guys from that town don't like what you're doing, because, well, more for them, because the music I make is great, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, that is true. I mean, it's not just your opinion, but it's all your fans' opinion. That's why I asked the question.
Well, there you go.
In the comfort that you're not an artist who struggles for fans, you have thousands of fans, but it's just a case of that niche audience that might go, no, I don't really get it. They don't say I don't like you, but you know, some might say I don't really get it. Now, speaking of love, you got a love album that you want to make as your next solo, but love was in the air in America. My question though is, did you meet up with any artists out there in America when you were out there? Was any hookups or connections? Has Lowe, these type of artists? Anybody you met out there?
No, I didn't meet any musical links whatsoever. I was out there kind of vacationing, and I did actually get forced into a few, like, what do you want to call it, work-related meetings, which I was happy to do. But truth be told, you know, in the calendar year that I operate in, which everyone operates in, I'm usually ridiculously busy every single day. So I quite rated taking 2 weeks off and just doing the California thing. But yeah, I ended up spending a couple of days doing the work-related stuff, but that wasn't music-related stuff.
Yeah. Something that's been on my mind as well is sad news this week. The Ultimate Warrior passed away. What reaction does Edward Scissortongue have to that news?
Yeah, it's terrible news. I mean, it's not shocking news because, you know, as we all know, if you go down that career path and you indulge in high-octane sports entertainment and subsequently do what you can to boost your body mass by consuming several different poisonous and toxic forms of, body mass building drugs, probably week in, week out, so you can get the necessary rush to tour the United States of America. You know, it's just going to happen. Everyone's seen the Darren Aronofsky movie. You know how it goes. I'm sad to see the Ultimate Warrior pass away, but if you go on the relevant websites and see the wrestler's obituaries, he's one name on a long list of glorious names that inspired me as a 10-year-old kid.
It's a massive shame now. Speaking of long lists, we got a long list of listener questions for yourself, if that's okay.
All right, hit me. Let's go.
Let's do it. The first question being, you first got acquainted with hip-hop for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle soundtrack. Have you seen the trailer for Michael Bay's new Turtle films, and what are your thoughts?
I haven't seen the trailer, but I've seen still image mock-ups of the characters and what they could potentially look like. And I don't know, like, I'm not one to go straight off the bat and hate on what it's going to be like, but Michael Bay is kind of infamous for, messing things up. I won't bear judgment on that until I'm sat in the cinema with the popcorn and the M&Ms and the 3D specs trying to decipher the chaos on the screen. So I think it's going to be amazing, but it probably won't be.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I'm kind of on the same side of the fence. Now, the same listener follows up with a question. What was your favourite Turtle slang, and what slang should they use in a new motion picture?
Well, I think it's it's got to be Michelangelo bemoaning the anchovies on the pizza, and at some stage in them amending their order, probably screaming cowabunga.
Exactly. Now, you're signed to a label which is very much regarded as, I guess, the new Lowlife Records. Now, recently, Harry Love put a reward of £50 for anybody who could trace the whereabouts of Brain Tax. My question to you is, if Edward Scissorton was to bump into Brain Tax at a local Tesco, what would you say to him, and what would you do with that 50 quid?
I don't know, I probably wouldn't recognise him, because, he's probably gone down the route of growing dreadlocks and wearing tie-dye dungarees and kind of changing his whole thing. So chances are I wouldn't see him. But if I did, I'm a pretty passive guy, and 50 quid is nothing to me. So I'd probably just let it slide.
All right, man. That's all good. Another listener question. When do you think Zane Lowe is going to notice you, says one listener?
I don't know. Like Zane Lowe's busy noticing an abundant array of talent across the musical spectrum. As radio DJs and personalities go, he's pretty busy on all fronts. So maybe he'll notice me when I sign a nice publishing deal, and that demo gets given to that guy and forced down his throat.
Yeah. All right, Dose, man. We've got some more questions here. Then we'll get to another couple. Then I'm going to ask you to do a wheelie on your bike to prove you're on a bike. And then we're going to get out of here and let you get on with your evening. It must be quite dark where you are. Is it pitch black where you are now?
It's dark, but I know these roads.
Oh, that's okay then. All right, yeah. You'll be all right on your push bike then. Quite gangster. Now, listen, I've got another question then from one of our listeners, many listeners, and it's saying that this EP they're really looking forward to. You haven't said a release date. I think we have, haven't we? It's coming out April 28th, is it, we said?
April 28th is when the bomb drops.
Excellent. Dope. So there you go, listening. April 28th is when the bomb drops. And that'll be available where? Where can people cop that? Is that going to be on the usual stores and etc.?
Yeah, I mean, for my personal benefit, it's probably best to cop it through www.high-focus.com, because that's where the gang resides. But if you fancy copying it from other outlets, then you're more than welcome to. You can find it at pretty much everywhere that you would care to look, suspect packages, etc., etc. You can buy it digitally via iTunes, Amazon, Spotify. But who goes to those places nowadays? Going to the High Focus HQ homepage and buying a limited edition vinyl, which is beautifully put together, might I add, is probably the best option.
Dope, man. And finally, a couple of people said that one person saying here about videos, they're saying that I've favorited and got a playlist of Edward's videos. When can we expect the new video?
Well, I'm happy to say that we've got a couple more trailers coming out, because I've been rolling these kinky trailers out that have been kind of enticing people about what I'm up to. But we've got a video officially dropping at some stage near the release date, and it's shaping up really, really well. And I'm shooting a second video for another song that may have been mentioned slightly earlier in the interview, that is shaping up to be the best thing that I've ever been involved in my entire life. So videos are coming, and videos are looking glossy and beautiful.
Excellent.
Dope.
Listen, man, it's been a pleasure once more. I'm not going to get to do a wheelie. It'd be pointless. It's radio. But I am going to ask you for a quick drop, if that's all good. And if you could just mention Conspiracy Radio, we'll put it at the top of the episode.
Yes, for sure. This is Edward Scissorton. Big shouts to my man at Conspiracy Radio. It's always a pleasure. It's never a chore. Super happy to chat with you guys. Cop the Theremin EP. And if you don't, listen to Spice Girls every single day on your own in your house.
Do that. All right, man. God bless. Take care of yourself. Have a good evening.
Thank you ever so much. Enjoy the show. Peace out.
All right, no worries, man. Take care, Edward Scissorton. And we're going to drop now into that EP that we've got sat here and let people just absorb and appreciate this.
peeping through his peephole, he could see a ton of evil coming. Unrelenting poison rushing, clouding up his motor functions. 1,000 lives were lost when all the bombs went off. The swaying meadow scorched to dust in seconds, flat replaced with something else. Craters on the earth's surface, yelping like a crippled puppy, squelching through the sediment. A meter deep in rancid slurry bucket loads. The lag that only God could know is mankind in a pot of golden nuggets on this rainbow road. A Jackanory story couldn't do it justice, never. In the belly of the canyon with a massive bag of weapons, popping shots at silver silhouettes from deep inside his parcel chamber. Sluggies fizzing through the mess and nestling in carburetors. He swore he saw the robots dancing daily in their nuke suits, worshipping the mothership, that effervescent oddity, stationed by the blue moon, the very planet orchestrating waves of super violence on the shoreline. A who's who, a who's left, of that he was uncertain. In his gut he knew for sure he was the only person. He watched his daughter screaming like a banshee as they torched the girl, left him all alone to tread the scuzzle in this water world. He'd seen his son get frazzled with a single ripping laser shot, and watched his wife evaporate inside the great electric storm, staring at the rifle bent and rusted on his tabletop. He emptied out his box of bullets, a single shell to burn. He had dreams of when the ultrasound went up and down. The doctor turned to him and whispered wisely, "You're a father now." Visions of his quiet town, working in the orchards with his brothers till the androids killed his kid and tore the orchard down. A solo missionary sitting in this metal winter, carrying the flame, a lonely mortal on a tortured vista. He sat and simmered, licked his wounds until the silence flicked the switch inside his mind. He grabbed the gun and swiftly pulled the trigger. Demons in your headspace, androids on your doorstep, sedatives and death rays, razors on their forceps. Before man was everything, and that's why the war crept. Before man was everything, the last of the war vets. Demons in your headspace, androids on your doorstep, sedatives and death rays, razors on their forceps. Before man was everything, and that's why the war crept. Before man was everything, the last of the war vets.